Chapter 5 Ozark's Play. Merlin Ossoff went to meet Lotus and called out to him, "You've grown. Good, follow me. I want to show you something." And he took Lotus to a massive space observation deck built on Wadler Fort. As they stepped inside the room, Lotus saw a gigantic holographic telescope set shimmering before him. The Galaxy observation deck of Wadler Fort hummed softly, its vast glass dome cradling the silence of a thousand stars. Grandsire Merlin Ossoff stood before the holographic expanse of the long-lost solar system, his long coat brushing the metallic floor, while the boy beside him, Lotus, stared upward, wide-eyed and wordless. "Grandsire," Lotus murmured at last, his voice trembling with curiosity. "What is it?" Merlin smiled faintly. "Forget the myths, little one," he said, his tone both gentle and grand. "The truth of our ancient home lies in the structure of this relic, this solar system, which began with the cosmic roar of the Big Bang and the birth of a brilliant star we call the Sun." Lotus tilted his head. "The Sun?" he said. "A star of fire," Merlin replied, his eyes glowing with its reflected light. "It gave life to everything that circled it." The hologram expanded, planets forming one by one. "Closest to it is Mercury," Merlin said, pointing, "a tiny cinder scorched by its nearness to the sun." "Then," Lotus whispered. "Then comes Venus," Merlin continued, his voice dropping. "A world shrouded forever in a greenhouse nightmare, where the air burns itself." Lotus blinked softly. "Home," he said. "Yes," Merlin said softly. "The third sphere, Earth and the moon, our ancestral wellspring. Legends say Earth was once struck by Thea, a wandering world whose impact birthed the moon. It's both truth and myth now, preserved in the whispers of the Oort cloud." Lotus' eyes flickered. "The Oort cloud?" he said. "A vast shell of frozen remnants," Merlin explained. "Ancient debris orbiting at the edge of everything we once knew." He waved his hand again, and the blue world drifted aside to reveal a real orb. Beyond Earth lies Mars, Phobos, and Deimos, a system of dusty red promise and two captured rocks. Lotus smiles faintly. "Small ones." "Yes," Merlin chuckled, "very small." His gesture carried them outward. "Next comes Ceres and the asteroid belt, the broken bones of creation, remnants from the time when planets were still being born. Then appeared a colossus, swirling with storms. And this, Lotus, Merlin said with awe, is Jupiter and its largest moons of Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, and many moons, a true miniature galaxy in itself, ruled by gravity and chaos." Lotus's lips parted. "Big," he said. "The biggest," Merlin agreed, smiling. "And beyond it waits Saturn, adorned with its rings, Titan, and many moons, t- tilted and distant forever, turning sideways, a frozen riddle of the void." "Sleepy," Lotus said softly. Merlin's laugh was low, fond. "Perhaps, and farther still lies Neptune and Triton, and many moons, the final giant, dragging its large retrograde moon behind it, before we enter the deep dark of the small worlds." The light dimmed, only tiny glints remained. "These are Pluto and its five moons, Haumea, Makemake, Iris, Farout, Sedna, and many dwarf planets," Merlin whispered. "They drift in the icy wilderness of the Kuiper Belt, where sunlight is only a rumor." Lotus frowned. "Cold?" "Colder than any winter," Merlin said. "Yet even there, life's dust waits for its chance to burn again." He paused, the entire system rotating in silence. "The system, my boy, is all that remains of a once vibrant cosmic neighborhood, its story written in the distant flash of a supernova that birthed it, and shaped by the invisible pull of a black hole that may have stirred its early spin." Lotus pointed upward. "Light?" "Yes," Merlin nodded. "Sometimes a gamma ray or solar flare rips through the void. Deadly light, burning across the fabric of space." Lotus' voice trembled. "And comet?" he said. Merlin smiled. a wanderer of ice and memory. A comet crosses the orbital plane like a ghost of the past, reminding us of how fragile orbits are. Lotus turned his eyes to the vast black above them. And and that line, the one you said, the Karman line, Merlin said. The invisible border between sky and space, between what we could reach and what we could only dream. Lotus's eyes shimmered, wide as twin planets, and the glowing cloud, a nebula, Merlin said gently, a cradle of stars where dust becomes light and light becomes time. They stood together in silence as the hologram dimmed to a faint ellipse of silver light. The boy whispered one final word. Ellipse? Eclipse? Merlin's voice dropped to a near reverent whisper. An eclipse is when one world passes before another, hiding the light for a breath, a reminder that even the brightest stars can be shadowed. And for a long, quiet moment, under the slow turning of the digital cosmos, Grandsire Merlin, Asaf, and Lotus simply stood, one remembering, one learning, as if the universe itself was holding its breath listening. Lotus's eyes lingered on the fading hologram, the swirl of distant worlds dissolving into starlight. His fingers twitched against the rail. Grandsire, he said softly, how does traveling faster than light work for spaceship? Merlin exhaled through a quiet smile. No, Lotus. The boy's brows furrowed. But how? Ship go fast. Merlin chuckled. No. Lotus tilted his head, a flicker of stubborn wonder in his eyes. How ship fly faster than light? Merlin's smile deepened, patient in a no, little one, but Lotus did not look away. His gaze held steady and unblinking, waiting. The old man sighed, turning toward the vast black beyond the dome. The stars shimmered against the curve of glass, and when Merlin spoke again, his voice carried the weight of centuries. The drive, he began, is fundamentally an engineered manipulation of the fabric of space and time, born from a unified understanding of relativity, both general and special, and quantum mechanics, to achieve motion surpassing the universal speed of light, or photons. We create what is known as localized plasma field, superheated by controlled reactions within the strong and weak nuclear forces. Through the laws of thermodynamics, we draw maximum energy from every trembling atom and molecule, until even the smallest unit of matter contributes to the propulsion. The holographic stars shimmered brighter as Merlin continued. This field generates a temporal bubble around our vessel, our ship, neutralizing inertia and reducing friction with the thin traces of air or drifting dark matter that fill the void. The elements composing our hull, plastic, metal, and other engineered compounds, are stabilized under extreme temperature by balancing equilibrium against rising entropy. He raised his hand, tracing a glowing line across the galaxy's light. By precisely tuning electromagnetism, the interplay of electricity and magnetism, we exploit higher dimensions to fold distance itself, bending space instead of crossing it. In that instant, the ship exists in superposition, neither here nor there, governed by the uncertainty principle, where all waves and particles blur into one field of possibility. Lotus blinked, watching as threads of light wound through Merlin's palm like veins of lightning. We momentarily defy causality, Merlin said, slipping outside the normal flow of time, not breaking the law, but stepping between its words. Conservation laws remain balanced. For what we take in energy, we return through radiation and pressure. We must constantly monitor radiation levels, maintain thermal equilibrium, and resist the decay of entropy that forever tries to consume order into chaos. He stepped closer to the viewpoint, his reflection hallowed in ghost light. Even gravity, the great sculptor of the cosmos, bows to these calculations. Dark energy presents against our hull from the unseen side of the universe, and still we move, guided by resonance, by the sound of the ship's own vibrations, the hum of engines older than nations. It is wood and fire, air and water, all transmitted into math and metal. His voice softened. The propulsion itself is a modulation of waves and particles, bursts that remain stable despite their immense temperature, carrying us safely from land to land, from ground to soil, far beyond the reach of clouds and rainbows. Lotus stared at him in silence, the reflections of galaxies swimming across his wide eyes. After a long pause, he said flatly, "That is a lot of nonsense." Merlin laughed, quite deep and kind. "That's why, my boy," he said, placing a hand on Lotus's shoulder. "You simply enjoy the ride of spaceships. Don't think about it." And as the stars drifted on, the hum of the deck became a lullaby of gravity and light, carrying their shadow across the windowed dome. One mind chasing understanding, the other resting in mystery. "And there is one more thing," he said quietly. "Scientific, magical, techno mystical substance. What we call the blue particle." Lotus blinked. "Blue particle?" "Faster than light, ultra speed is limited after all. It all depends on the blue particles, which are scarce. The blue particle bends space without tearing it, lets energy become matter, and matter become light again. It fuels our drives, stabilizes our fields, and keeps the laws of relativity and quantum mechanics from devouring each other." Then Merlin and Lotus left the hologram hypertelescope galaxy observation deck. Lotus went to bed, and before he closed his eyes, he had an intense dramatic vision, a warning from a figure in dark. Only could see the dark figure's face, shoulder, and upper torso, and he gave him a lesson and warning to avoid these 10 things. The figure's voice was low, warm yet haunting, each word lingering in the air as though carved from starlight. "Pride, pride," he began, "is the arrogance that binds the heart. It whispers that you are greater than all others, that the world exists only for you. Be aware, for pride turns love into disdain, and truth into illusion, and even the purest intentions into ruin. Greed is the hunger that never rests," he continued, his gaze softening. "It takes many forms: the craving for wealth, for power, for possession. It promises satisfaction but delivers only emptiness, leaving the soul hollow and always longing for more than it truly needs. Lust," the figure's tone deepened, almost mournful, "is the obsession that burns within, not only of the body but of desire itself. It blinds reason, entangles the heart in temptation and craving and distraction, and seduces the innocent into despair. Envy is the silent thief," he said, eyes piercing through the darkness. "It gnaws at joy, compares every blessing to another's, and festers until resentment becomes your only companion. Wrath," he whispered, voice trembling like distant thunder, "is the fire that consumes the hand that wields it. Anger, rage, hatred, they claim you, and in their flames nothing survives untouched. Gluttony is the excess that overfills life," he murmured, "whether of food, drink, indulgence, or desire. It weighs the spirit down, dulls the senses, and leaves the heart aching for a fullness that can never be satisfied. Sloth," he sighed, "is the silent decay of the will. Laziness, idleness, apathy, they creep into your days, eroding ambition and leaving the soul stagnant, unshaped, unfulfilled. Megalomania is the hunger for domination, the thirst for authority that twists the mind and corrupts the heart. Power becomes the master and you the servant to your own obsession. Lie is the betrayal of truth, falsehood, deception, dishonesty, and cheating. Each one a wound to the soul until the voice that speaks it is no longer recognizable even to yourself. And finally, despair." The figure's voice softened, a quiet aching tone: "Nihilism, loss of hope, self destruction, gloom. They wait in the shadows to claim those who surrender. Guard your spirit, Lotus, for once despair enters, light itself struggles to survive within you." And then Lotus was startled, but didn't know what to think of it, and slept, and had a dream where the same figure appeared and said, "My son, you are innocent, pure, and that must win. A world for childlike wonder. You are different."